There we go. Commissioner Hall, I want to thank you for spending your morning with us as we review the employment situation. For some time now, you've had the difficult job of being the bearer of bad news, as many hard-working Americans have desperately sought a sustained economic recovery. You'll be happy to know that we don't shoot the messenger here in Washington, at least not yet. I'd like to begin with some potential hope for our economy. Following 2 dismal quarters of anemic growth, real gross domestic product grew at an annual rate of 2.5% in the 3rd quarter of this year. So finally, America's economy is marginally larger than it was when the recession began in December of 2007. Unfortunately, the outlook going forward looks less rosy. Projections of future economic growth for the balance of this year and next have been significantly lowered by the Fed as well as international economic organizations. The turbulence from a potential financial crisis in Europe could still precipitate a double-dip recession here, a very real threat which could have been avoided had poor economic policies from the White House not resulted in a very weak and a very slow recovery. Equally troubling is this jobless recovery. More than 2 years after the recession officially ended, there are 6.4 million fewer payroll jobs in America than when the recession began, and more than 5.9 million Americans are long-term unemployed. The president's policies are simply not working. By comparison, the Reagan expansion, which followed the similarly deep 1981 and 1982 recession, outperforms the Obama economy by all metrics, including economic growth and job creation. The difference is the Reagan expansion occurred in a political environment that fostered private business investment and encouraged Americans to work and save. President Reagan's policies were a favorable tailwind. In contrast, the American economy now confronts policy headwinds. Virtually every step of the way, President Obama and congressional Democrats have increased, not decreased, uncertainty that Americans and American businesses face. This uncertainty has discouraged businesses from making investment in new buildings, equipment, and software that would create millions of new jobs and cause a rapid fall in the unemployment rate. Instead, Washington should create a political environment that incentivizes Americans to work and save and incentivizes American businesses to invest. Then Washington should get out of the way. This is the first employment hearing since President Obama's proposal for a second round of stimulus spending that would require massive new borrowing from foreign entities, creating debt which future generations of hard-working Americans would have to pay for. Stimulus, too, is not paid for. It will add billions more to the national debt and is wrongly focused on creating taxpayer-funded government jobs. Not only can we not afford it, but it's a glaring admission that the first stimulus failed. Remember, we still have 1.3 million fewer American jobs than when the original stimulus began. That's 1.3 million fewer Americans working than when the stimulus began. Enough is enough. Hard-working Americans deserve a fresh start. America needs to grow jobs, not grow the federal government. Ultimately, private business investment drives private sector payroll job growth. Businesses make their investments based on the outlook for the long term, not just the next year. The President's proposal, which even Senate Democrats quickly rejected, seeks to spur investment through temporary tax reductions, but does little encourage businesses to increase their investments over time. Rather than Washington taking more of what Americans earn, our nation craves a simple, fair tax code that increases the incentives for Americans to work and save, for American businesses to invest. This requires a permanent reduction in the effective marginal tax rates on both capital and labor. Moreover, tax reform should help and not hinder American businesses who want to invest here in America. As I have proposed, Washington should immediately lower the tax gate to allow American firms competing successfully overseas to bring home their profits that are stranded abroad so these firms can invest in America in new jobs, new research and development, new expansions, and financial stability. Repatriation, as it's called, is a free market stimulus of nearly $1 trillion that will create up to 3 million American jobs, increase federal tax revenues, and boost the economy by between 1% and 4%. Now that is a stimulus America can get behind. I urge President Obama to join congressional Republicans in supporting a comprehensive bipartisan tax reform that results in a permanent reduction in marginal tax rates. Twice in my lifetime I've seen the benefit of such plans, first under Kennedy and then under Reagan. Both men trusted in the American people. Put another way, they placed their faith in the marketplace, which is nothing more than the collective judgment of the American people as to where to invest their money. Their sound economic policies fueled the economic booms of the 1960s and the 1980s and the 1990s. Kennedy and Reagan helped spawn entirely new industries, kept our great nation first in research and development, patents, inventions, and entrepreneurship. President Obama has a real chance to be a game changer here, or as he likes to say, a transformational president. All he need do is follow his predecessor's lead. Republicans in Congress are ready and willing to work with the president to create real jobs along the main streets across America. That, Dr. Hall, I look forward to hearing your testimony.